All right, I'd like to welcome everyone again today to our webinar where we're going to be talking about marketing strategies to finish strong this year with a particular focus on hashtag Giving Tuesday. I'm sure you are all aware of this juggernaut of a day that has turned into quite a boon for nonprofits, and there's a lot of activity out there. So how do you cut through the fray and make sure that your message resonates with everyone above all else? So we're really excited to be sharing this information with you, both from Winspire and from OneCause. My name is Ian Loth. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Winspire, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Kelly, who actually put this presentation together. Welcome as always, Kelly.
Thanks, Ian. It's great to be back with you. I love doing these webinars. I'm very excited to be here talking about Giving Tuesday. I mean, obviously, it's a day that's just kind of exploded over the last several years. It seems to keep getting bigger and bigger every year. And yet, when I'm talking to nonprofits at OneCause, who are our customers, or even just other nonprofits in the space, the question comes up like, how do I get a piece of the Giving Tuesday pie? Or we've tried it a few times, we've had mediocre success, or not quite sure how to get started. So I think no matter where you are in the Giving Tuesday game, hopefully from this webinar you can take some tips, some quick marketing strategies that you can put into play for you over the course of the next few weeks.
Love it. Yeah, Kelly's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to these things. And both of us work in the marketing realm, so we're going to be sharing what we've learned are things that resonate and really help you connect with the people that you want to talk to. So today, the agenda, we're going to do a brief welcome, talk just through the Giving Tuesday 101, and then go into those 5 tips to finish strong. And we're going to finish with a question and answer. I don't expect this to be too long of a webinar, but we'd love to hear from you. Questions you can ask throughout. There's a little questions pane in the lower right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar panel. You can submit your questions. We'll keep a tabs on them, and then we will wait until the end to answer all of them. So we definitely want to hear from you. We love participation. With that, go ahead and tell us a little bit briefly about OneCause before we get started here, Kelly.
Yeah, sure. So for those who aren't familiar with OneCause, we were formerly BidPal Mobile Bidding, and then in January kind of rebranded because over the last 10 years that we've been helping nonprofits, we've spread out beyond mobile bidding into a full range of fundraising solutions to help support nonprofits in their year-over-year or year-round campaigns. And so we measure our success not necessarily by the dollars we raise for the company, but the dollars that we help raise for nonprofits. So we're actually at 1.5 billion now. We help, there's a lot of missions that have been help funded. We help nonprofits connect to over 1 million donors annually. And I think actually by the end of this fall season, we'll be somewhere closer to 16,000 events. So one of the things that I love to do in my role as the VP of Content Marketing, and I used to be a fundraiser for years in Chicago, so come at it from your side of the table, is to take all this experience, right, 10 years, billions of raised in events, and help nonprofits glean best practices and tips that other nonprofits are using and sharing those success on a wider basis. So super excited to be again on this webinar today.
Great. Yep, I'm a big fan of OneCause. They have a great conference called Raise. I don't know if you've heard of it out there, but they have it every year now, hopefully, and it's just a great place for event fundraisers and fundraisers in general to go and talk and share knowledge, and highly recommend checking that out next year. Is it going to be again in, what was it, September?
September in Chicago, it's looking like. So, yep, we'll have to top that Cubs rooftop this year. So,
Yeah, it's too much
some
fun.
ideas, yeah.
Cool. We hope to see you there next year. For Winspire, for those of you who are not familiar, we specialize in travel packages to use in your live and silent auction and as raffle prizes. These are no risk experiences. You don't have to pay anything to use them in your event. They're completely risk-free because if they don't sell or nobody bids on them, you don't pay a dime. It's only if they actually are sold and raise money that you come and purchase from us afterwards. And then we're a full-service travel agency, and we take great care to take care of your winning bidders with that white glove service to make sure that, because we know that they're VIP donors that are spending, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars at your event, so they, deserve the ultimate care. So we've been in over 50,000 events globally, serviced just shy of 100,000 winning bidders, and that's climbing every day. And we've raised successfully through our packages just a little over $56 million since 2008. It's a great fundraising tool that you can use not only at your event and to fill out your auction offering, but also as raffle prizes throughout the year, and also in your golf tournaments. It's just a great carrot to really dangle out there to ensure that people are opening their purse strings and spending money and donating to your event. Sometimes people need that extra kick, right? And it's also a great way to identify those high net worth donors in the room that are going to bid big, that you end up knowing that you need to take them out to lunch right the following weeks if they're bidding $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on a live auction item. So it's a great tool for really bringing out those high net value donors out of the room. Again, this is how it works. Free to reserve for your event. You can go to our website, check out our catalog, reserve the experiences. We give you all the promotional materials, images, posters, in some cases videos. You can sell the packages as many times as you want at the event, and then afterwards you keep all the proceeds above the nonprofit cost. There's no hidden fees whatsoever. All that cost is baked into taking care of your winning bidder, making sure they come back and they want to buy their travel from you year after year. So we'd love to hear from you. At the very end, we'll be sharing just a few of our top sellers this year, but we'd love to be part of your event coming up next spring.
And in real life, Winspire story. So I was on the phone yesterday with SPCA of Wake County doing a customer success story because they've had a gala for 23 years, and they saw a ton of increase in revenue this year. And so I was talking to her about what were your strategies, what were some of the things you tried. And no joke, the number one, she said, I finally dipped my toe into the realm of consignment and used some really innovative strategies. I think in her live auction, selling multiples and all those things. So Winspire is amazing. I'm happy to be partners with you guys, and thanks for taking such good care of the nonprofits.
For sure. Yeah, right back at you. We love partnering with you guys. And at the end of the day, we're both here to maximize your fundraising revenue, whether it's at your event or year round. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we hold these informational webinars. But of course, we also want to work with you, right? We want your business. We want to earn your business. So we'd love to hear from each of you. Cool. Giving Tuesday 101. Did you want to kind of do a little intro here, Kelly?
Yeah, sure. So we thought, there's all this buzz out there in the industry around Giving Tuesday, and yet we still, there's a lot of that nonprofits, want to know about it, still want to understand what's going on. So we thought we'd just do a quick 101 intro to Giving Tuesday for those new into the game. And those of us who've been doing Giving Tuesday for a while, it's always good to kind of just understand some of the trends and the insights that are happening out there. So why Giving Tuesday? So 242 million in Giving Tuesday in the last year. What we're seeing is a huge rise in, and can we actually go to the next slide? A huge rise in online donations, social media, really just by the numbers, year over year explosive growth in Giving Tuesday. What I think is a super interesting trend, and as we start to talk about email and digital marketing, and it'll also weave over into social media, is this blue box that's down at the bottom, the 33%. 33% of millennials want to engage, and they're engaging in Giving Tuesday, but they're looking for innovative ways. And so this talks about peer-to-peer fundraising, but one of the things we'll talk about a little later in the webinar is how you can use matches and challenges, competitive giving elements to engage, all of your donors, but particularly if you're looking for a way to engage some of the younger youth donors in your movement, you can do that. I think one of the other things if you look at the teal box to the left, is 1 million social media mentions on Giving Tuesday in 2017. So we're going to talk, about email in this, but in addition to email tips and strategy, having ways and having a social plan is going to be incredibly important to leveraging it. Social, I think, is in some ways it is like email in that you want to keep it short, you want to keep it effective. So while we talk about some of these email techniques in this webinar, also think about the ways that you can take that out, some of those tips, those tools, and apply them to your social media strategy. And then I think the yellow box, no matter what your gender is, I think we're seeing a huge rise in female giving. So as you're messaging and as you're starting to segment, you're thinking about your personas, you're thinking about your approach for Giving Tuesday, make sure that you're keeping in mind that females donated a huge swath of the giving that came to Giving Tuesday in 2017. Anything you want to add, Ian?
No, I just love that stat. I think that's what jumped out to me the most. I mean, who knows if that's going to continue to grow, but it's just something we're going to talk about, what your message should be in a little bit, but just making sure being empathetic and heartfelt. And, I'm sure I would wager to guess that most of the people on this webinar are probably female. So really connecting with that constituent is really important. So, yeah, I mean, I think these stats really speak for themselves, to be honest. It's a big day to be a part of, right? So you'd be leaving money on the table if you weren't doing some sort of communication out there, even just simple, making sure you have a landing page, social media. We're going to talk about all that, but participating even just a little bit can result in some dividends for you.
Yeah, great. Let's go. So I think really this webinar is how to gain reach. And while we're specifically talking about how you can gain reach in the next, 3 weeks as we're leading up to Giving Tuesday, hopefully some of the tools and the techniques that come out of this webinar, you can gain reach anytime. And we should be thinking as nonprofits, and marketers about how can we do more with what we have. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about tips for standing out and really tips for connecting and engaging in a medium like email, which is digital, right? You have to find ways to make those human connections. Otherwise, your email becomes the one of 200 emails that they're going to get, that donor, that prospect, that supporter gets, probably on a daily basis. So how can you turn email not into something that's just sent and that is digital, but into a really valuable tool to helping you not just attract donors, but activate them?
It's funny, yeah. You and I were talking about how there's just as many almost companies out there that are trying to piggyback on Giving Tuesday and doing webinars and all these, and we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we cut through that to try to be the source for information for Giving Tuesday? And it's the same thing, right? How do you guys have just as much, if not more, competition out there with all the other nonprofits? So that's such a key point. And I think it's really important. I realized we didn't even put the date on here. If for those of you who don't know, when is Giving Tuesday? It is on the 27th of November. So it's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, which is on the 22nd this year. So and anything else you want to add there before we go to a poll?
No, let's do the poll.
Cool. So we have actually just one poll here. We wanted to know how much you have raised from Giving Tuesday in the past. Maybe you haven't done Giving Tuesday campaign. That's okay. There's an answer for you there. But we want to know if you raised, and hopefully you're tracking this specifically through your Giving Tuesday campaign. How much have you raised? 0 to 5,000, 5 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 plus. We're going to let you guys vote here for a few seconds. You should see it up on your screen. You can click right on one of the answers and let us know where you are at. We're going to give it about 3 more seconds. 2 and 1. Fascinating. All right. This is great.
Wow, so we have people who've never done a campaign. I wondered if we'd attract, if that swath would be on here. That's super cool.
That's great. Yeah, and maybe we should have made the cut down that 0 to 5 a little bit more, but still, I mean, it's great to know that we have some big organizations out there that probably have maybe a wider reach that have raised 25,000 plus. That's incredible. Good for you guys out there. That's just great work. So I mean, yeah, I guess this doesn't surprise me too much, but I'm glad to see that we have some newbies on the block.
I think what I'm excited about for those that are in the 0 to 5 or the 5 to 10 or even 10 to 25, it was like, just wherever you're starting, wherever you're at, hopefully you can use some quick hit email tactics to even just get just any incremental gains that you can get this year, and setting some goals around that will be great.
Great. Cool. Let's go into these 5 tips. That's why we're here, right?
Yep. And Ian and I are going to keep it super conversational. So if you're eating lunch, please feel free to kick back and relax. Or if you're having coffee on the West Coast, this would be more of a conversation than anything.
Cool. Yeah, you picked this quote. So tell me why you picked this quote. I love it. Tell me why you picked it.
Well, OneCause, actually, Simon Sinek, we talk as a company about starting with our why, right? And our why is to help build a better tomorrow one day at a time. But Simon Sinek always, so he just happens to put, I think, the right spin on no matter what it is you do. But people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right?
Yeah,
And that's so important as we enter into these last 3 weeks, cutting through the noise of all the emails out there, the other causes, who are also going for donor share wallet, is that nonprofits, we all have to remember that our donors are ultimately going to give, or our supporters are ultimately going to support, because they believe in the mission, because we've articulated that mission, and because we've demonstrated the impact that a gift's going to make to that mission.
that's great. And I think that dovetails really nicely into our first tip, right? Which is always connecting it back to your mission. And another quote that I like to live by, right, is starting with the end in mind. And I think that can go a long ways, especially when you're talking about your mission and what you're trying to accomplish with your Giving Tuesday campaign. It's not just, hey, we're looking to raise money. That's not a why, right? That's not an end in mind. What are you trying to raise money for? Humanize your message. Make sure that what you're raising money for is at the forefront. It doesn't always have to do with humans, but humans like to connect with specifics and specific goals and specific strategies that you're trying to, or goals rather, that you're trying to achieve as far as they relate to your mission, right? So that's another word for that is impact, right? We're not just trying to raise $10,000. What is that $10,000 going to do, and how is that going to have an impact on the community at large, right? It's not just about buying the baby incubators, right? But what are those incubators going to accomplish, on down the line? Sharing the stories of those babies that maybe wouldn't have survived, and where they've gone and what they've done. Humanizing the message, always bringing it back. That being said, you can do that with really simple language, right? Short, simple, catchy sound bites, right? And statistics that are that really help the person who is reading it, right? Because we're dealing with attention spans that are very, very short, right? Immediately connect with it, right? So X amount will get X, right? So if you donate $20, that is going to go towards a portion of this ultimate goal. I wish I had Kelly, maybe you can bring some better examples of simple language and goals and dates for that really resonate with folks.
Yeah, sure. So I think actually this picture, what I tried to do in this deck is take real life examples from last year, 2017, of nonprofits who were either OneCause customers or that I had seen on social media or in my own email box. And this was just a simple, it's a child's drawing, right? I mean, you can use, we'll talk later about using visuals, but this is a simple child's drawing with a simple language. Everybody deserves to follow their dreams. And actually, had we had more space, you'd see that right below this was a CTA, donate now. And it takes them right to wherever it is that the donation. Also state, when we talk about goals and dates and stating dates, I would, as part of any email, not only, talk about my message, talk about the impact, but drive that urgency. We are trying to raise $5,000 in the next 6 days. We're
Yes.
trying to raise $1,000 in the next 24 hours. And
Yes.
your gift of $25 will help feed a family. Again, that's just one example. But if you can be concrete and specific, and but yet using a very simple message, you're going to be able to catch attention and drive activation, because that's what we're trying to do. And you got to think about it in the sense that we're all busy. Think about yourself as your own consumer, right? The emails that you open up where it's 1.5 pages of text, you're probably not going to get very far into it. You got about 10 to 30 seconds, depends on what study you're looking at, to capture attention. So short, sweet, and driving to action with dates is the best way. And make sure that CTAs, and what we mean by that, calls to action, buttons,
Yeah.
donate now, give here, donate today, are part of every single email outreach, so that you're driving to that activation.
Get involved, participate. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, call to actions are crucial. You shouldn't have any sort of campaign going out, whether it's a social post, an email, anything, without a call to action at the end. Even a video, right? Make sure that the last text on the video is how they can get involved in some way, because otherwise, what's the point of throwing it out there, right? Putting it out in the ether, right? So I love what Kelly said about specific goals and dates. You're creating urgency. right? If it's an open-ended ask, then people can feel like they can do it tomorrow, and then they're going to forget about it, right? So making sure that if they don't participate now, they're going to miss out is a crucial part. You're dealing with psychology here. You're dealing with human beings, right? So you want to catch them, trap them, and get them to take action with your cause.
And this is where, I would say, lending our marketing experience, if we can go, the CTAs, like, what's your take on CTAs from a marketer? Are they up high? Are they down low? If you were to give a nonprofit some tips around CTAs, what would they be?
Sure. So first and foremost, the most important part about a CTA is not where you put it, but where it goes, right? Make sure that the call to action, the button, right, that you have in your image or in your email goes to a landing page that makes sense, right? It needs to make sense. It needs to have a similar messaging than that what your email, your post had, right? So there's continuity between them deciding to take action and then arriving at a page that reaffirms why they took that action, right? So and make sure that on that page it's super simple and easy for them to actually then donate, right? The donation form, putting in their credit card, actually doing that and a lot of places have it actually built in, whatever software you may be using, and they do that work for you. But just make sure the messaging is continuous and it makes sense. And then as far as where the button should be placed, yes, the higher the better, but you want to make sure it's not the only thing they see, right? So I always like to try, there's a banner usually that you're going to put in your email or imagery, but don't put it all the way at the bottom, right? At very least, put it in the middle of the email after a few words, make it really easy for people to locate it and utilize it. And it should be a button, right? Links are fine within text. I actually encourage you to do both, right? But a nice colorful button that works well with your brand, that's very easy for people to spot. And if you can, we'll talk about emails and imagery a little bit later, but yeah, big bright button is always great. Anything to add there?
No, I just say that I think this tactic here from Rachel's house is a great summary of this slide, right? Notice in underneath November 28th, 2017, that's like 19 words there. In 19 words, they humanize the message with the picture. They tell you what the impact is going to be. They drive urgency, and then they've got a call to action, right? There's a button under that, donate. So this is really, I think, a simple and effective way to show how with images and tight words, you can drive people to activation.
Cool. I also love what they did at the very top where it says Black Friday, Cyber Monday, then there's Giving Tuesday,
Giving
right?
Tuesday.
That's good copy that you can use on a social post or within an email as well. And don't hesitate to copy for that matter. Like, you can go out there and find other examples, and chances are people haven't seen all the things that you're following, right? It's that's part of what marketing is. It's finding things that you like, building off them, and improving them for your own use, right?
Great. Let's
Cool.
go to the next
Number
tip.
two, consistent engagement. Do you want to touch on this first?
Yeah, so I think so. So we're talking about email marketing, but hand in hand with
Yeah.
email marketing needs to be social promotion, right? So if you really want to drive reach in these last 3 weeks, getting a good social promotion campaign is one way to do it. So you should be posting daily. Leading up to it. If you're just teasing out your Giving Tuesday campaign, you don't want to ask too soon, but teasing out, giving reasons to give, conveying inspiration. Get creative with the hashtags. They're seeing a ton of people using creative hashtags out there as a way to drive engagement. Always tag Giving Tuesday. I see a lot of posts that don't do that don't use that hashtag, and you're missing an opportunity to just seamlessly dovetail into all the other social feeds that are using that hashtag. And if you can build a theme, that's where I think a lot of the causes are standing out. And I don't mean just an email theme, but a theme that then carries over to social as well.
Mhm.
Let's do this. This is St. Vincent de Paul Catholic School. Let's do this was their rally cry. In 2017, one day, twice the impact. Let's do this. Really get some kind of tagline that you can attach to your social media and then dovetails into your email and then ultimately your website. But I think the easiest thing that I saw in 2017 is nonprofits using and engaging influencers. Ambassadors is another term that you can use, but find top 10 posters in your community, people who are on social all the time, people who have a wide social network, and ask them to to share, retweet. They don't even have to organically post. They can just piggyback off of what you've got. And now you've got an army of 10 people posting on your behalf and reaching to each of their social followers. And then
That
just
is
make sure, oh, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
I wanted to kind of reaffirm that it's just so crucial, because then that's where you start to have the network effect, right? When things start to grow exponentially, is if you have influencers or your constituents, right, or your biggest supporters, sharing what you post, right? First of all, you should be posting consistently, right? Leading up, right, and then on Giving Tuesday, and then reaching out, whether it's a direct message, calling them, texting them, asking people. It's just asking people to reshare or to share your post. It's so easy, and it goes such a long way. And oftentimes people just need a reminder, right? They're not sharing because they don't like you. They're just busy people, right? So you need to ask. That's such a crucial part. But if you can get 20 people to reshare your post, that means 20 times more people are going to see it, right? So it's not just about how many followers you have on your page, it's about how many followers your followers have, right? So asking them to share is such a crucial part about distributing your message on social media.
Yeah, there's this whole concept of social proof. It's really kind of coming to the forefront in fundraising. We talk about it a ton on the peer-to-peer side, but it can be done for any campaign in social media. It's the idea that, you get 10 people out there and then all of their friends, they want to normalize behavior. So I want to do what you're doing because that looks cool. So let me do that. So there's this idea of really social proof, and getting a ton of people out there broadcasting your Giving Tuesday message will drive new supporters, and really just amplify your efforts.
Yeah. Last thing I would say here too is just to kind of reiterate what Kelly was saying about consistency, right? Picking that one message and kind of the one brand to carry it through. It should be consistent throughout your emails, on your social posts, and if you have any posters or anything that you're doing, making sure it's consistent and establishing that early, right? Right now is a good time, early in November, when you should start, establishing that message and start posting, right? And what is a consistent social media post schedule? Well, you should be posting about other things than just Giving Tuesday, of course, but you can post daily on social media and it's totally fine, right? You can't email daily, but you can post daily on social media. So interspersing, every other day, every couple of days, about Giving Tuesday, or just mentioning it when you're doing just a normal post about, highlighting something that's going on with your cause, showcasing what you've been doing, and then reminding people at the end of the post, hey, remember Giving Tuesday is coming up, including the Giving Tuesday logo in the image. Even if you're posting about your event, you're just reminding people, right, to keeping it top of mind, so that when Giving Tuesday comes around, they think of you and not other organizations.
Great.
All right, email conscious. I like to call
this is yours. You're very passionate about the email etiquette.
Email conscientious. Well, I know this, and I know this from experience, right? So we have and I'm sure OneCause does too, but we've amassed a tremendous database of nonprofit contacts, right, with our blog and various webinars we've done, and we've run into trouble in the past with sending too many emails, right? We send out an automated campaign, drip campaigns, and it floods people's inboxes, and then they disengage, they unsubscribe, they say too much, guys. And so we've definitely learned our lessons, in years past, and learned how to pull back the reins. But it's something I reiterate around here a lot, is just being email conscientious. The inbox is sacred, right? And it's people's, what they look at day in and day out, and if you're in there too often, that it's gonna start negatively impacting you very, very, very quickly, right? But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't email, right? Email is such an important medium for communicating with people when you do big releases and big announcements. So I would just try to cut your emails down to once a week at most. And then you can use it as a kind of a release valve if you need a big announcement, right? Two emails in 1 week per month is okay. You can also do other things like the changing up who the email comes from, right? So you can have, first of all, we're a big advocate of having emails come from people, right? You'll notice the webinar invitations that you guys receive all come from me, but they are actually from me, right? I'm actually sitting here putting the email together in our, marketing, our email service provider, whether it's MailChimp, Constant Contact, whatever, but the from address is me. Right? It's just that instead of sending it, BCCing everybody from my inbox, I'm sending it from an ESP, email service provider, and sending it out to everyone. But if you were to reply, you would get right into my inbox, right? The fact is, I'm doing a one-to-many email about whatever it is that we're talking about, an announcement, and people are a lot more apt to open an email and engage with it if it feels like it's coming from a person. Now, that doesn't mean there's a place for emails from your organization. I think that you can do both, and it allows you to actually engage with more emails than you would if you just did that weekly email from your organization. People are going to start tuning it out, spacing it out, having it from different people in your organization. We do emails that come from the president, CEO of Winspire, right? Especially when he wants to make a big announcement or share something really special about Winspire or say thank you. That email comes from him. Of course, maybe we help him write it, but he proofs it, he says okay, and then we send it out to tens of thousands of people, right? It's still coming from a person, right? Just because email your marketing, right, doesn't mean it needs to come from a faceless organization. Having it come from people is a huge part of helping people engage. So just be very conscientious about how many emails you're sending it out, who it's coming from, and always make sure that the reply to address, the from address, leads to your inbox, right? You might have to deal with some auto replies whenever you send it out, but that's totally fine. It's much better to be having to sift through those and have a few people actually responding to you saying, hey, how else can I get involved, than not, right? So never, ever, ever send out from a no reply. You want to send out from your email address so that if people reply, they get directly to you. As far as the content of these emails, right? We talked a little bit about having those call to action, making sure the branding's on cue with your social media, but just make sure, my biggest pet peeve, and I still see this, I'm sure you do too, Kelly, is emails that are just one giant image, right? It's just one giant image, because most inboxes out there, most people use, Outlook. It's changing a little bit as far as, sometimes you can see within your dashboard of your ESP, what sort of devices and programs people are using to open your emails. But a lot of programs such as Outlook, they do not show images right away. You have to right click and say download images to show the image. So you're missing out on that first step as soon as people open your email. If it's a whole image, you want to have text, right? You want to have buttons that are not image buttons, but are actually coded into the email, and you want to minimize the amount of big banners that you have. Of course, you want to have imagery in there, but you definitely want to think text first, then imagery second, right? Last but not least, creative subject lines. They are the lifeblood of a good email campaign. If it's coming from a person and the subject line is super long and it talks about hashtag Giving Tuesday and all this stuff, chances are they're going to pass over it like they do all the other ones. You got to get creative. Think about it like as if you are sending an email to someone within your organization about Giving Tuesday, right? What would you put in your subject line? What would you put as a subject line if you're emailing your, your cousin or your brother or sister or your parents? Like, what would you put in the subject line and that would make them want to open the email? You can do the same thing with your email campaigns, right? So I think that is all I got there. Did you want to add anything? I feel like I just went on a rant a little bit.
Oh, no, that's fine. I would just say the subject lines, two things that I think subject lines are incredibly important. Think about, again, I think if we think about ourselves as our own consumers, right, and what it would look like if you were a donor, is what's going to jump out. And so I was doing some research before this webinar on, there's a great email out there on HuffPost, or a great blog out there on HuffPost, like 450 email subject lines for Giving Tuesday. You can also get to it through the Giving Tuesday site. But
Great.
you can use casual things like, hey, some people are using emojis, ton of humor out there. I think there was one in that article that was talking about, bad fruitcake alert Giving Tuesday. You don't have to get cutesy, but whatever you can get to grab attention, and keep it short. I mean, there's a huge debate on, is it 10 words in a subject line or 15 words? But whatever that is, keep it short, but but grab attention. It doesn't have to be this long, every dollar you give is going to be matched by now and in the next 12 hours. You could probably just take that and say, every dollar match times 2 today only. But get creative with how you think about it.
I love it. And you can also use, what was the name of that? Was it a Huffington Post article
Yeah,
that
it's a
you,
HuffPost article. It's like 400 and let's see, 400 email subject lines from end of year fundraising. And it's on the Giving Tuesday site as well.
cool, cool. Yeah, maybe we can include a link on that in our follow-up. But yeah, you can also use emojis.
Yeah, emojis
um,
are big.
Emojis are great. People love them. I love seeing them. Some people don't, but I think they're great, and I think they can help, especially if you have kind of that humorous approach to your subject line and you have a cupcake emoji. I think that's really cool. You can do, if you go to getemoji.com, that's a place that you can go actually highlight. It just shows all the emojis and on your computer, on your browser, and you can go hover over one and copy it, right? And then paste it into your subject line. And that's the best way to do that. But it's a good way. And then also there's preview text that I feel like we didn't mention as well. So whenever you open an email or your email inbox, you'll see all your emails in there, and you'll see you'll see the subject line, and typically you'll see about 1 or 2 sentences of text, and it'll be the first sentences in the email typically. But many email service providers like MailChimp, Constant Contact, Emma, all those give you a box where you can actually enter custom text. You want to make sure that within that you include their first name within there, because you want them to feel like it's directed to them. And there's usually smart fields, or what else are they called, Kelly? I'm not sure, but you can put it'll fill in their first name based on the database and the list of donors that you are uploading, right? You should be including their organization in there if you can, or excuse me, not their organization, but their names. If there's any other pertinent data, especially in the preview text, making sure that it's addressed to them, dear so-and-so, right? Comma, then you put the beginning lines of the text that reaffirm your subject line and make it so that they want to open it up. So did I get that right? What do you call them? Smart fields?
Smart fields, or I think we call them pull-through fields too.
Pull-through fields. Yeah, each platform calls them something different, but it should also be that way in the body of your email, right? When you're addressing a letter to someone, it should say dear and then have their first name there. And if sometimes you can have other information that pulls in. Last year we saw that you donated X amount to Giving Tuesday. You can actually pull that data in if you're that sophisticated and say, we'd love, for you to do that again, or maybe, maybe do even beat it this year, that sort of thing. The more personalized you can make the email, the better. The more they're going to feel appreciated and feel like you are talking more of a one-to-one relationship as opposed to a one-to-many, right? That's the key here, one-to-one versus one-to-many.
Awesome. What do we got for tip 4? These are the pro tips. So
I love this. This is good. This is good.
because we get a ton of questions on email from nonprofits, like, what are your top tips if you had to share some top tips. So we want to put this here. We won't spend a ton of time on this. Is more of a takeaway for you guys as you have these slides after. But if you can have a branded header, like, there's nothing more uninspiring than an email that's just all copy. So make sure if you can, you have a branded header. I
But
did some research. That is what it's what?
But it's not the whole email, but it's
No, it's not the
nice.
whole email.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can, we'll talk later about making things visual. The more visual you can make that branded header, the better. Did a ton of research on what was the optimal length for fundraising emails. Just like anything, there's probably 10 different versions of what's the optimal length. But looking at 175 to 200 words is what research in the industry is saying. Use names, as Ian said, individualize it, personalize it. Again, if this is the 100th email they've gotten on Giving Tuesday, what's going to make it stand out? And I thought this stat was interesting. Just a huge increase in open rates when you individualize your emails.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yep. Subject lines again. Tips for keeping your subject lines short, impactful. I thought that this was interesting, and I do see this in a ton of Giving Tuesday, and I'm starting to see the more personal notes come across in fundraising in general. The recommendation out there is using the word you 2 to 3 times. You can make a difference. You can help support. You can make dreams come true. whatever that is, but finding ways to read that or humanize it, and put that simple 3-letter word 2 to 3 times in your emails. And then make sure this is my number one
This
thing.
should be bigger. Yeah, this should be bigger. We should have a whole
What
slide on.
we should have a whole slide on number 5, right?
Yeah,
Mobile
exactly.
readers.
Yeah.
And I forget what the stat is out there, but
More
there's a
than half.
huge increase in the number of people engaging mobily in donations for Giving Tuesday last year, and it's just expected to rise. Ian, what would you say about mobile reading?
I would say it's majority. I would say more than half of emails are read on mobile phones now, right? On a smartphone. So
Mhm.
you have to make sure that your email renders well on various, whether it's a Gmail app, whether it's the iPhone, Apple Mail app, and you can test it, right? Just go grab some people's phones, send it to them, send a test email, have them look at it. But you have to make sure that the spacing and everything renders properly, and then the call to action, that CTA, right, when they click through, goes to a page that's mobile optimized as well, right? Nothing's going to make somebody, ditch the process faster and just leave than something that doesn't show up properly and they can't even read it, right? So making sure that the text sizing is where it should be when it renders on a mobile device, and the process is seamless for them to click that donate now, visit the page, enter their credit card information, or log in to an existing account, and then make that donation.
Yep, and I'd say if anything, you take out of these 6 tips, you can use them on any email campaign. It doesn't have to be Giving Tuesday. It can be, year-end appeal, a gala, any kind of fundraising. Okay, what's up next? All right,
Visual.
keeping
Yeah.
it visual. You hear us talk about visual, and you hear people say, "Oh, make sure your emails are visual." What does that mean? It means using real photos when you can. Again, this is a simple. This was a camp that advertised their Giving Tuesday. This was an image from an email. Doesn't have to be fancy. Real photos, not stock. To the extent that you can show life and action in your pictures, and not just headshots, right? But you want to show people living the mission, people living, what it is that you're trying to convey. Again, that fits into that, pictures in line with your mission. The more that you can connect those pictures directly to your cause and then directly to your ask, the better results that you're going to have. There's also a huge study in marketing, and this is outside of fundraising. If you read stuff like Marketo, there's just a million studies out there in marketing around, how eye contact and actually looking at looking direct, or looking downwards towards a CTA can actually drive giving behaviors or drive actions. So where you can, make sure that people are looking either at you or where you want them to look in the photos. And then super excited, nonprofits are really starting to embrace video, and I'm not talking about high-end production video out there. You can do amazing things with your iPhone, and the more real, the better. So if you haven't challenged yourself, try a video this year, post it to social media at the very least, or embed it in your emails. And if you can do infographics, those are great eye catchers for an email. They're great. I wouldn't lead with an infographic. And what I mean by that is, if you're doing a 3-part email campaign or a 4-part email campaign over the next 3 weeks, don't have your first one be an infographic. Maybe it's your second, maybe it's your third. It's a great way to catch attention. And for those that didn't give the first time around, you will grab their attention with the infographic and probably, hopefully, activate them towards a donation.
And for those who don't know, an infographic is basically, displaying statistics, that short soundbite type of statistic about your mission and what they're going to support and how the impact's going to be made in a visual context, right? Just an image that has numbers, it has, usually some sort of design component that that communicates, what that impact is going to be very quickly and effectively, because it uses imagery and symbolism along with numbers to showcase what that impact is going to be.
Yeah, and if you guys as nonprofits, you're like, oh, that sounds wonderful, but I don't even have enough tools to do my job, let alone make infographics. Canva, Canva, is one of nonprofits' best friends. It's a free tool. You can use it for creating any kind of graphics, but it's great and it's easy for creating infographics. So again, Canva, Canva.
Yeah, and it could just be as simple as, putting the numbers out there of like, $20 help support, you know, 30 meals, something like that, and then you have, $20 bill equals sign, and then 30 meals, and you have a picture of a rice bowl, something like that. I mean, that in its simplest form is an infographic, and having somebody sitting there very happy that they are, they got this rice bowl. It's just things like that. You're just conveying a message visually. And I love what she said about, making sure you use imagery. Imagery is tough, man. It's tough to get the shots that you want, but it's important to go out there and try to source them, take them yourself. You have a camera right in your pocket, but they should be of your real people, of your mission, using that to really reform. And it should be consistent across your email campaigns and your social, right? You can use the same kind of imagery, create one thing that's going to be shared on both. Awesome. Tip 5. This one's all you, Kelly. I love this. The matches and challenges. These are great.
Yeah. So the Giving Tuesdays that I saw last year that had the most success were ones that did matches and challenges. And then again, these are just a couple real life examples. How do you get a match or a challenge? Obviously, you can go to your board, find a corporation, find a local business to match, or find a donor. Find somebody who will want to donate $1,000. Doesn't have to be huge amounts of money, but the idea is that people are psychologically drawn to the fact that their money will be multiplied and their gift will be multiplied. We're also seeing the rise of challenges. Again, social fundraising, peer-to-peer. Groups that are doing team and individual and corporate challenges. The teams are the businesses that raise the most money for a nonprofit over a series of a couple weeks, receive some kind of prize, and there's a winner picked. But whether you do a challenge, 2 times a match, or you do a team-based or a corporate challenge, the most important things to do is communicate your timeframes and be very clear about it. Over the next 3 weeks, we've got 5 teams raising funds for, animal shelter XYZ, donate here, but give timeframes around your matches. The shorter, the better. So what we're seeing is a lot of matches in the last week of a campaign. You can trot them out now, and that's fine, but you probably need a couple of matches or a couple of challenges over the course of the next 3 weeks to be able to sustain momentum. And then as you get, closer to it, cut down those time frames. So 24 hours to raise 20,000, every dollar is matched. That's literally a sentence taken from a campaign last year. Also, in the last week, matches have the highest success rate. They're the perfect tool for getting repeat donations. And what I mean by that is a person who gave 3 weeks ago to your campaign will see a match in the final push in the last 48 hours and be motivated to give another time. So it's a way to kind of continue to bring people back in after they've made an initial gift.
Cool. I love it. Anything to add there? Because I think that's all we got. With that,
I think we're good.
We can go to questions. Thank you for those of you who joined us here today. We'd love to hear from you if you have any questions you want us to clarify anything. We had Richard Walker who was asking, what is a CTA? Again, that is a call to action, right? A button specifically that you're going to include in your email that's specific in terms of what are you asking them to do? It's the answer to why are you sending this email, right? Or why are you posting this social media post? And if the answer is to donate, right, especially for Giving Tuesday, make sure there's a button that takes them to that donation page, right? What would you say, Kelly, is a good call to action before Giving Tuesday if people aren't ready to donate yet because they're going to wait until that day?
You mean to get them engaged?
Yeah, I mean, if you're sending out an email that is about Giving Tuesday
without an ask,
well, I mean, it's Giving Tuesday isn't for a few weeks, right? And you want people to donate on Giving Tuesday, right? Although people can donate before, you can definitely attribute it to your total if you'd like. Would you still have the call to action be donate now?
I've seen a lot of groups going out and garnering Giving Tuesday donations before Giving Tuesday. You could send them to, you could be read more You could send them to a landing page talking about your Giving Tuesday and what you want to do with it. If you don't want to roll out your ask to that 24-hour period, you could send them to your land or one of your web pages on your site, send them to a video, send them anywhere. If you're not going to do the direct ask before, anywhere that continues to reinforce your mission, why you're special, and what you do. I'd also say too, for those nonprofits out there that don't have the resources to build buttons, you don't have to do buttons. You can do a hyperlink. Anybody can do a hyperlink. And that's all simply, within your email system, taking the word donate, right clicking, inserting a link and taking it to whatever landing page or website page you want to take them to.
Totally agree. Let's see, Yvette, how can I share this presentation in a staff meeting? We're gonna be sending out a copy of this within the next couple of days, a recording that we'd love for you to share at your staff meeting. So please don't hesitate to do so, as well as the presentation PDF. I think it's fine for us to go ahead and share that.
Yeah, for sure.
Maria, when do you suggest we start our Giving Tuesday?
I'd start promoting it now, right? My question back is, well, I guess it's hard to have a question back, but my answer back would be is if this is your first time, you need to start promoting now, because it will take a couple weeks for your donors to get acclimated to the fact that you're going to run a different campaign or you're going to try something new. And so I'd start posting, if it was me, I'd post on my social, 21 days counting down to Giving Tuesday. It's our first ever. I would start to drip that. I would drip it in social and I would drip it in an email. You probably don't need to email every day at this point about it, but maybe an email once a week. What do you think, Ian, talking about the fact that this is your first ever campaign?
Yeah, I mean, you can start tomorrow. You can start this afternoon, especially with a social campaign, right? The idea here is that you just want to make sure that that you've spent the time to put actually a good cohesive message together. So you're not just cobbling it together last minute. You want to make sure that it's consistent. We talked about consistency. So spend a couple days, maybe spend the rest of this week, meet with your team, figure out what your messaging is going to be, and then start to build your schedule, right? You can post daily on social media, reminding people that Giving Tuesday is coming up, but also interweave that with things about your cause. Emailing once a week between now and Giving Tuesday. You can accelerate that maybe twice a week, maybe the week before. Wish a happy Thanksgiving. Do a big Thanksgiving email that says, we really appreciate you. We hope that, it's get to spend time with family. Please remember us for next week after you get done shopping on Black Friday, that sort of thing. All of this can start now. What you're trying to do is prime the pump a little bit and get them to remember you when it comes time to actually make that ask.
Yeah, and I would say for those that, it's not your first time, you've been in Giving Tuesday before, celebrate the number of years. This is our fourth year. We've got goals, right? Play on your history around Giving Tuesday and start talking about it now. And again, humor goes a long way. If you're promoting out this early, you can, spin it around Giving Tuesday. I'm just trying to think after turkey, don't take a nap, give, right? I mean, there's a million different ways that you guys can play off of things that are around, reminding them that something's coming up in a few weeks.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that question, Maria. This one's from Sarah Kissinger. Conscious, I guess we misspelled conscious. It was supposed to be email conscientious, but I know that I could never spell that word on my own. I need you to spell checker, but thank you for correcting us, Sarah. Let's see. Can we get an email example from you on what you think a great way it should look? Well, I'll tell you what. Take a look at the email that we send out after this. I know probably Kelly will send one and I'll send one just thanking you guys, including a link to the recording and probably some links to some other things and other resources. Take a look at those emails and see how they're formatted, right? The invitation to register for this webinar was another example of an email format that's really tailored to conversions, right? We're talking about conversions here. We want people to take action, right? And that's what our jobs are as marketers on this end, is yes, to disseminate good information, but we need to spur you guys to want to join us for this webinar, right? And in order to do that, we need to send out emails that show up well on a mobile device, that have a little bit of imagery and a little bit of words, and convey that message very quickly and easily, so that you know that you can go through and register for the webinar, right? So you know, if you're looking for examples, I would say, I mean, OneCause has beautiful emails that they send out on like just their newsletters and everything, and especially for this email, and we definitely spend a lot of time putting ours together. So it's a great place to start, and then also just following other organizations and seeing what examples you know, resonate with you and would make you take action.
Yeah, and I would say the simplest, I would say for a great example, literally Google Giving Tuesday email examples, and then go to the images, and you'll see just like a ton of different, take inspiration from other nonprofits for sure.
Great. What is it? Oh, I love this question. Thank you for that one, by the way, Erica. This one's from Yale. What is a good replacement word for the first name when you don't have it? Great question. I'll tell you what we use. We use friend, like friend, hi friend, you know, or supporter, right?
Supporter.
Valued donor, right? But you're still addressing them directly, right? Dear valued donor, dear valued supporter. That's a good kind of default that you can use whenever you don't have it, because every database has that. You know, where you don't have the first name, maybe you just have their email address, you should still be addressing them directly and not just starting your email, right? You want to make it feel like you know, you are talking to them. Do you have any other words that you use?
No, we use friend, but I've been on the recipient end of a couple of giving emails where it was clear they didn't have my name, and what two that stick out in my mind were hey, hi change maker.
Change
And
me.
Hi Change Maker and Hey World Changer. I was like, oh,
Love
that's
it.
actually, that caught my eye. Because usually
Love
when
it.
I'm like, you know, I know they don't have my name, I'm like, you know, nice try to personalize, but didn't quite get there.
Right.
So if you're not going to be able to do that, I would insert something that's going to grab attention.
I love it. Change maker. That's great. World changer. Those are fabulous. I've never heard those before. Great. Thank you for that question, Yale. This one's from Haley. You can do all this through OneCause, right? As far as handling your Giving Tuesday campaign.
You can do all your Giving Tuesday, your donation pages, or your text to give through OneCause. And if you're actually a client already, you can spin up as many online giving centers as you want. That's included in your subscription. So, yep, absolutely.
Great. Thank you for that, Haley. This one's from Marjorie. When you say match, do you think people assume $1 for $1?
You know what? Actually, that's a really great question. My recommendation was it would be to be explicit, right? So if you have a different match that's not a double, it's a 3 times match, or you know, 50 cents on the dollar. Just spell that out.
Great. Thank you for that, Marjorie. This one's from Kirsten. I know you said 1 to 2 emails per month, but what is an appropriate amount of emails on the actual Giving Tuesday? Love it. Great question. You know, I would say, I mean, obviously you're definitely going to want to send one major campaign, and you can do several social media posts that kind of are counting down especially your goal. I would say the only time maybe it makes sense to send a second email on Giving Tuesday is maybe towards the end of the day or the evening, if you are super close to your goal.
Yep.
And you're saying, oh my gosh, here we go, we are $1,000 short of our $10,000 goal. We just secured a match person that will, you know, in this, if we, you know, get 500 more dollars, we're going to get an additional 500. Now's the time to act. This, you know, really high urgency thing. You know, I would discourage you from faking that sort of thing. But if you actually are that close to your goal, I know I would want to send out a second email. That's for sure. What do you think, Kelly?
Yep. I think, you know, multiple emails if you're really close to a goal, right? But not just for general communication. I would actually sneak in an email the night before. That would be my number one tip. So that it's either in top of mind of people that tomorrow's the day, or it's at the top of their inbox when they wake up on Giving Tuesday morning.
I love it. Marjorie, thank you for that, Kirsten. This one's again from Marjorie about videos. I can't seem to get a video to run in our MailChimp. It sends to YouTube. Do you know how this can be done to run an email? That's a great question. Emails do not run within an email client. So even when you'll notice when I send out the recording of this, it'll have an image with a big play button on it for this recording. It's going to take you to YouTube, right? Or Vimeo, or wherever you're hosting your video. It's because email clients, Gmail, Outlook, within mobile devices, they are not able to actually play the video within there. It's going to redirect, but that's fine, right? People know that they're clicking on a video. It's going to take them to either the website YouTube, or if they're on their mobile device, it's going to open up the YouTube app, which is what you want, because you want the optimal video viewing experience. And the only way that's going to happen is if it happens locally on wherever the video is hosted. So that's not an issue. Just you can do a little trickery in terms of having an image that has a play button, right, and link that to the YouTube video, and it'll carry them out. But people know that that's what they're clicking on. Thank you for that, Marjorie. This one's from Cassandra. We've got a few more questions here. Stick with us, folks. I know we're a few minutes over here, but I think you're going to want to stick around. There's some great questions. This one's from Cassandra. Do you feel that asking for a specific amount will deter people from giving more than what they would have without including a specific amount? Good question. What do you think, Kelly?
That's a really good question, and I'm not skirting the question, but I would think your donor base pretty well and what their giving trends are. But if you don't, my hedge would be, don't tell them that that's the amount. Give them a few different amounts. Say, for $10 gift, it will do this. For $20, we can do this. For $100, we can do this. That way you're giving them a selection, a menu for what they could choose. And then again, as we said earlier, understanding the impact. So if you're worried about asking for a single amount, give them a range.
That said, I love the specificity of saying, hey, please, donate $20, right? If it's someone, you can even use historical data. If you know it's someone that's never donated before, right, but they're in your database, they're following you, you can, ask for, a specific amount that might be lower. If you know that they've donated a lot, you can maybe change your ask. But I agree with Kelly that offering a range and saying, here's what your various things will do is important. All right, thank you for that, Cassandra. I have seen more year-end Giving Tuesday campaigns focus on number of donors and not a dollar goal. Any thoughts or advice on using this method? Interesting. It's from Tyler. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, I've seen that come up, and that's a lot of groups are, if they're finding that it's either their first time into Giving Tuesday or they haven't had a great track record of total giving, they still are using it to drive engagement, right? Because maybe Giving Tuesday is a way for you to get a lapsed donor who hasn't given in a long time to give, or get a current donor to make an additional gift to you during the year. But you don't want to set a dollar amount around it. And so they're using number of supporters to drive those people that will participate in a campaign at any level. And so that's what we're seeing, but more as an engagement tool than as a total juggernaut fundraising tool.
Love it. Thanks for that, Tyler. This one's from Kirsten again. Loving all these questions. We have about 3 more questions and then we're going to call it a day. This one's from Kirsten. I work for a school and we are planning on doing a phone-a-thon the evening before Giving Tuesday to encourage donations leading up to the actual day. Will this discourage gifts on the day of? Interesting. What do you think? I mean, I wonder if that's going to be contributing to their Giving Tuesday total, if it's all part of the same Giving Tuesday campaign, right? Because in that case, it wouldn't really matter, right? Because it's all for Giving Tuesday. So yeah, it's one of these things where I wish I could ask more questions back.
Yeah, but I would say try it. I mean, I haven't heard of anybody who's done that and crashed and burned. So I think I would say try it, and as long as it's going to the Giving Tuesday campaign. If you were going to try the phone-a-thon, you could also roll out a match the next day, so you could try to get people to participate again and double their donation.
This is great. So yeah, Kirsten's saying it's part of Giving Tuesday, so that's great. It doesn't matter whether people, in that case, from my perspective, it doesn't matter whether they donate on the day of Tuesday or before that. If it's all part of the same campaign, you're leveraging the hashtag Giving Tuesday idea to spur people to take action, right? So it doesn't matter whether they donate on Tuesday or Monday, they're all contributing to the same thing. So it's kind of a wash, right? And hopefully on Giving Tuesday, at that phone-a-thon, you can leverage, right, to say, here's how much we, just like Kelly said, here's how much we raised last night for Giving Tuesday, help us reach that extra goal. We're just trying to, that reach, we're just trying to reach, and that'll help people to just spur to take even more action. I love the phone-a-thon idea. I think you can really leverage that a lot on the day of Giving Tuesday to actually spur more donations from people who maybe hadn't donated yet already. Good luck with that, Kirsten. That's great. Diane, is there an advantage to using text to give versus CTA button? Do you want to answer that? I think those are two different things, right?
Yeah, so CTA would be email based, right, or web based, way to give. And that would take them to some kind of donation landing page. A text to give would be if you want people to text into a keyword. So let's say your keyword is donate, right? You would in all your promotional materials say, hey, on Giving Tuesday, text donate to 74325
Oh, that's great. Oh,
and give
yeah.
to our
Okay.
Giving Tuesday campaign.
I love that. Yeah, totally. That's a great call to action, right? You can have both of them in there as well, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say a lot of groups are doing, a lot of groups are looking to text to give because it is very economical. So if you don't have the resources to go build your landing pages and build your websites and build donation pages, there's many text to give tools out there. Ours, for example, is $495 for a whole year. So it is an easy way if you need to galvanize pretty quickly to get something that's of value and economical too.
Love it. Okay, I'm just going to do two more and then we're going to call it a day here. Thank you for those questions. Thank you for that, Dan. This one's from Jenna. We just had a fundraiser a couple months ago. Is it too much to be involved in Giving Tuesday as well? I would say absolutely not, because it's low touch, right? All you're doing is reminding them that Giving Tuesday is coming up. It's for most of this webinar, all we've been talking about is email and social, and that's really all you're doing. Right? You're just reminding people that Giving Tuesday is coming up, that you are accepting donations, and you just want to keep your organization top of mind for when that day Tuesday rolls along. If they're not going to donate on Tuesday, that's fine, but if they are, you want to make sure that they remember you. So don't hesitate to run those campaigns.
And I would say too, and that's where you could do something like the earlier question. You could do an engagement focused campaign. Like our goal is to get 1,000 donors this year. I'm making up it's 1,000, whatever the number is, and not put a dollar amount around it. If you're worrying about exhausting your donors, the other thing is to use a match or a challenge, right? If we can get 100 supporters, no matter what level, in the next 24 hours, we have a donor who will match it dollar for dollar, right?
Love it. That's so good. Last one. Thank you for that, Jenna. This is from Erica. She had just a couple. I'm going to wrap those up really quick here. You may have covered this, but what's the best number of social media posts on Giving Tuesday? Once an hour, once every 2 hours, etc. I would say, you can do once an hour, you can do once every 2 hours. It doesn't really matter. Social media is nice like that you can. I guess you just don't want to inundate people's like Instagram feeds, but just make sure that your updates are pertinent and unique and have new imagery and are exciting and you're not doing it every 15 minutes, right? Space it out, maybe do 2 in an hour and a half and then wait a couple hours, do another couple. It's just you want to treat it like you would your own feed, right? Like you're a human.
Right. And I would say play it channel by channel too. Like Twitter, you can get away with tweeting away at a much higher volume than you can in LinkedIn or Facebook or an Instagram. So play with that channel by channel. My other recommendation would be to intersperse your messages throughout the day so that you have some posts that are asking to give and you have some posts that are communicating where you are to your goal or what you're achieving, and then you're doing another ask to give. So that's not always ask. It's ask, oh, here's where we are. Here's where we need to go. Ask again.
Love it. That is so good. And thank you for that. That's a great question, Erica. We're going to wrap it there. And to answer your second question, Erica, do we get a recorded copy of this webinar since it's so informative so we can refer back to it for future years? Absolutely. We're going to be posting this to YouTube. The full recording will also be including the slides in our emails. You'll probably get an email from both Kelly and myself thanking you for your participation and joining us today. And as always, please stay tuned for more free webinars coming up very soon from both of us. But I must say, one of my favorite partners on these webinars has always been Kelly. So thank you, Kelly, for sharing your knowledge today and collaborating with me on this special post.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Everyone, good luck this Giving Tuesday. And whether you're Giving Tuesday or doing annual appeals, good luck as we wrap out 2018.
All right. Go out there and get those Giving Tuesday donations, folks. Good luck.
Bye.